Thanks for joining. Today is a focused recap of GitHub Universe 25. Specifically, what changes day-to-day delivery for your team around agents, security, and scaling across the enterprise. You'll hear three themes repeat throughout: productivity, trust, and governance. Use the tagline on this slide as a simple scorecard as we go. Does this help us ship faster through agents? Does it reduce risk through security? And does it let us manage adoption across teams through scale? Think of it like moving from one smart assistant to a coordinated team. Instead of one developer asking for help, you orchestrate multiple specialized agents with clear guardrails. So keep these three words in mind, and I'll say them slowly: agents, security, scale. Let's start with the headline from Universe: the future of software delivery is agentic. And GitHub is organizing the platform around that reality. Universe 25 wasn't one big feature. It was a platform shift. With over 60 innovations aimed at agentic delivery, secure by design workflows, and enterprise controls. When I say agentic, I mean AI that can take a task end to end. It can plan, execute, and hand work off across steps, while your team provides oversight, approval, and guardrails. So we move from suggestions in an editor to coordinated execution across the delivery pipeline. A simple analogy is this: you are moving from a single helpful intern, an assistant, to a staff team of agents. If you are going to scale that, you need a manager, or mission control, to coordinate work. You need HR policies, which is where AI controls come in. And you need reporting, so you can measure outcomes and stay audit ready. All of the launches land in three themes. Agent HQ is the productivity layer for running and coordinating agents across GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and the command line interface. Secure by default bakes in quality and trust. An enterprise-grade platform brings the governance to scale responsibly. The value equation is speed plus trust plus control. Governance is not optional here. It has to be designed in, not retrofitted. Next, I'll highlight the specific launches that matter most, and then we'll go deeper on each theme. Here are the highlights I'd put in front of an enterprise steering committee. These are the capabilities that change operating model, not just user interface. First is the Agentic Platform Foundation. Think of it as mission control for software delivery. You get a place to coordinate agents, apply AI controls for policy and approvals, and track usage metrics so adoption is measurable and auditable. And it sets you up for third-party agents as that ecosystem matures. Next is GitHub Code Quality. This is unified monitoring and enforcement across the organization. So quality and compliance are not a team-by-team debate. They are consistent, visible, and governable. Then Copilot expands across the workflow. You can assign Copilot from pull requests, Slack, Linear, Visual Studio Code, or the command line interface, with built-in security and quality validation. That is the trust-building pattern we want: AI detection paired with deterministic tools like ESLint and CodeQL. A simple way to prioritize: if your bottleneck is pull request throughput, focus on agentic reviews and coding agent assignment. If your risk is compliance, start with AI controls, code quality, and alert remediation. Next, we'll start with the productivity pillar, Agent HQ, because it's the container for how agents show up in daily work. Agent HQ is our shorthand for the future developer experience: agents embedded directly into the GitHub flow with shared context. What it is agents that show up where work already happens. In planning, they help turn an issue into a concrete approach. In coding, they draft changes with the right patterns. In review, they explain trade-offs and flag risks. In remediation, they propose fixes. And in automation, they handle the repetitive steps that slow teams down. Why it matters is context. These agents understand the repository, the pull request, your policies, and your standards. That shared context is the quality lever. Because suggestions are grounded in how your organization actually builds software. Think of it this way: instead of adding another tool tab, Agent HQ makes agents feel like new teammates inside the tools developers already live in. The adoption lever is staying in flow. Now I'll define what Agent HQ includes, and the core building blocks that make it enterprise ready. Agent HQ isn't one feature. It's the unified experience where your agents, workflows, and insights come together. What it is: one place to engage agents across GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and the command line interface. Any agent, any way you work. That includes GitHub Copilot, and over time, partner and third-party agents. All operating inside the GitHub environment your teams already trust. Why it matters: agentic delivery only scales when execution, visibility, and control scale together. If every team adopts agents differently, you get speed in pockets and risk everywhere else. How you'd adopt it: start by treating Agent HQ like a control tower. Agent HQ is the airport, where work arrives and departs across repositories and tools. Mission control is air traffic control. You can assign work to agents, monitor progress, and steer when priorities change. And AI controls, also called the agent control plane, are the flight rules and security screening. They set policies, permissions, and audit visibility consistently across every agent. Here's the key point: the more open your agent ecosystem becomes, the more you need centralized governance. Openness without controls becomes chaos. What to measure: cycle time improvements, agent task completion rates, policy compliance, and the reduction in security and operational exceptions. Let's start with mission control, because coordination is what turns automation into a repeatable team capability. Mission control is the command center. One place to see every Copilot coding agent session, what it's doing, and what's blocked. What it is: a central view. In public preview as of October 28, to manage and monitor agent sessions across your day-to-day tools, including GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and the command line interface. Why it matters: leaders care less that AI wrote code, and more that we can see and manage what it did. Visibility turns agent work from a black box into an operational workflow you can trust. How you'd adopt it: assign agents to discrete tasks with clear scope and a definition of done. Then steer mid-flight. Review progress, adjust instructions, stop the run, or rescope before the work drifts. Here's a simple example. A manager assigns an agent to add logging and tests for Service X. They watch the pull request evolve in real time, spot a missing edge case, and redirect immediately, before it becomes rework. What to measure: fewer handoffs, less coordination overhead, shorter time from task assignment to pull request, and fewer late cycle surprises. Coordination solves the productivity side. Next is the enterprise question. How do we govern all these agents consistently? That's AI controls. AI controls is how enterprises safely scale agents, centralize policies, permissions, and oversight across every agent you allow. What it is: AI controls, formerly the agent control plane, is now in public preview as of October 28. It is the governance and orchestration layer for intelligent agents, so you can manage them like any other enterprise capability. Why it matters: as agents move from a few experiments to dozens of workflows across teams, the risk is inconsistency. Different repos, different access, different rules, and suddenly you have shadow AI. Governance is an enabler of adoption, not a blocker, because it turns shadow AI into managed capability. How you'd adopt it: start by centralizing governance so policies apply consistently across organizations, repositories, and agents. Then define guardrails for access and write paths. For example, agents can open pull requests but cannot merge. Agents can access repository A but not repository B. And certain workflows require human approval only after code QL, code quality, and security analysis checks pass. What to measure: adoption with control. Track which agents are enabled where, policy violations prevented. Audit completeness and cycle time impact from agent-created pull requests that still meet compliance. Once you can coordinate and govern agents, the next unlock is flexibility, building custom agents for your domain. Custom agents move you from generic assistants to domain expertise, agents that understand your workflows, systems, and standards. What it is: custom agents, generally available as of October 28, let you extend Copilot beyond coding. You can create purpose-built agents that automate, analyze, and take action across your development lifecycle. From issues to pull requests to operational handoffs. Why it matters: domain context reduces wrong turns. Instead of a helpful generalist, you get a specialist that knows your release rules, your tooling, and your definition of done. That means less manual toil across repos and teams, and faster completion with fewer rework cycles. How you'd adopt it: start with one high volume, well-defined workflow. A simple example is a release readiness agent. It checks changelog completeness, verifies feature flags, confirms required tests ran, and then opens a pull request with the fixes it can safely make. What to measure: cycle time for that workflow. Number of handoffs eliminated, percent of releases meeting readiness criteria on the first pass, and exceptions that required human escalation. Next, let's look at how agents improve one of the most time-consuming steps in delivery: code review. Code review is where speed and safety collide, and agentic reviews aim to make reviews both faster and more reliable. What it is: agentic code review enhancements, in public preview as of October 28. Copilot can review changes with full repository context, so it catches routine issues and style violations with much broader coverage than a human can sustain. Why it matters: you reduce review bottlenecks without lowering the bar. Developers spend less time on nitpicks and more time on design and correctness. And as you scale, you get more consistent outcomes across teams, not 10 different interpretations of the same standards. How you'd adopt it: start with a few high-volume repos and common pull request types. Let the agent propose review comments and suggested fixes, but keep enforcement deterministic. For example, the agent flags a missing null check and suggests a change, while linting and CodeQL confirm the rules and security findings. AI does the reasoning, tools do the verifying. What to measure: time to first review, rework cycles, escape defects, and policy compliance. And for developers who live in the terminal, Agent HQ also shows up there, through enhanced Copilot in the CLI. Many critical workflows start in the terminal, so we're extending Copilot and custom agents beyond the integrated development environment and into the command line int. Urfus. What it is: Copilot CLI enhancements, in public preview as of October 28. This brings Copilot into the place where developers already run builds, manage branches, and troubleshoot. Why it matters: fewer tool hops means less context switching, more consistent usage, and better return on investment. It also turns multi-step terminal work into a guided, repeatable flow that's easier to govern. How you'd adopt it: start by wiring in a few custom agents for the tasks your teams repeat every day, like environment setup, repository hygiene, or running the right checks and scripts. Then allow delegated execution to the Copilot coding agent so intent can move to a pull request faster. A simple example: from the terminal, you ask, create a new service scaffold, add continuous integration, and open a pull request. The agent executes the steps and returns a reviewable diff. What to measure: reduced setup time, fewer manual steps per change, and faster time from first command to pull request. Now let's talk about the coding agent itself, because it's now enterprise ready and how it deploys and integrates. These updates make Copilot coding agent practical for regulated and large-scale environments, with more places to run and more places to interact. What it is: Copilot coding agent is now generally available, and it's becoming the execution layer inside Agent HQ. Two upgrades matter most for enterprise architecture. Why it matters: first, you can run the agent on self-hosted runners. That gives you control over data residency, network egress, and access to internal systems. It's the difference between a helpful assistant and an operable service that can meet compliance requirements. Second, there's a Slack integration. That means teams can delegate work and collaborate in natural language where coordination already happens, while still producing the same governed software artifacts. Broader toolchain reach ties it together. The agent behaves consistently across GitHub, Visual Studio Code, the command line interface, and chat. So you reduce context switching without creating a new shadow workflow. A simple example: a security-sensitive team runs the agent on their own runners, and a developer assigns a task from Slack. The output is still a standard pull request with the right checks and approvals. How you'd adopt it: start with one repo, one runner group, and a clear policy for what the agent can touch. What to measure: cycle time to pull request, change failure rate, and policy compliance. With agents running everywhere, leaders need measurement. Next is the Copilot usage metrics dashboard and application programming interface. If you can't measure it, you can't scale it. This dashboard and application programming interface are about making AI adoption operational. What it is: the Copilot Usage Metrics Dashboard and API, now in public preview, gives leaders and GitHub Enterprise admins a consistent view of how Copilot is actually used across teams, repositories, tools, and programming languages. Why it matters: this connects usage to outcomes. You can see where engagement is high and where enablement is needed, so ROI conversations are grounded in real behavior, not anecdotes. And for security and governance, you can spot anomalies, like sudden spikes in usage in a sensitive repo, and adjust policy based on what is happening in practice. How you'd adopt it: start with a small set of teams, turn on reporting, and use the API to feed your existing data warehouse or security information and event management system. Then review trends on a regular cadence with engineering, platform, and app SEC. What to measure: a simple KPI trio works well. Adoption, meaning active users. Engagement, meaning days used in interactions. And delivery impact, meaning pull request throughput, cycle time, and defect rate. Productivity gains are real, but they vary. Measurement plus process change is what turns usage into ROI. And the place most developers feel these improvements first is Visual Studio Code. So let's look at the Copilot for Visual Studio Code upgrade. This is the everyday experience slide. Faster suggestions and better context translate directly into developer satisfaction and sustained adoption. What it is: a major upgrade to GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code, in public preview as of October 28. The focus is improved responsiveness, better inline suggestions, and a smoother development flow, right where developers already work. Why it matters: speed removes micro friction. When suggestions arrive quickly and match the task, developers accept more of them, stay focused longer, and shipping velocity goes up without adding headcount. How you'd adopt it: enable the updated Copilot experience in Visual Studio Code, then roll it out team by team, starting with high churn services. Pair it with lightweight guidance on coding conventions so the model can mirror what good looks like. A simple example: instead of rewriting the same helper patterns across files, Copilot recognizes your existing project conventions and applies them consistently across modules. What to measure: acceptance rate, time to first working change, and sustained weekly active usage. That is the adoption flywheel: better user experience, more usage, more measurable impact, and better enablement decisions. Speed is only valuable if it's trusted. Next we switch to our second theme: secure by default. Now let's address the question every CISO and engineering leader asks: how do we move faster without increasing risk? Secure by default means security and quality are designed into the workflow, not bolted on at the end. When Copilot or an agent helps generate code, we treat that output like any other code. It gets validated automatically and consistently, with the same guardrails, tests, and policy checks your teams already rely on. And let me say this plainly: we're not asking you to trust AI. We're building systems that verify outputs. Think of it like building a car. Seatbelts and airbags are not optional features you add later. You engineer them in from day one. Same idea here for AI-assisted development. How you adopt it is straightforward. Standardize the secure workflow across repos, make the checks default, and require them for every change, regardless of who or what authored it. What to measure is simple: fewer vulnerabilities and defects found earlier, and less rework after release. First, let's look at how we unify code quality and compliance signals across the organization. Code quality is about making maintainability and compliance visible and enforceable. At the same place code is written and reviewed. GitHub Code Quality, now in public preview, gives you a single native solution in GitHub to monitor, enforce, and report on code quality and compliance. What it is, in practice, is automated checks and standard findings that show up where developers already work, in pull requests and code review. Why it matters is simple: fewer defects means faster delivery. You spend less time on rework, fewer rollbacks, and less triage after release. And maintainable code is easier to secure and audit, because it is easier to reason about, test, and change safely. Here is a concrete example. Set a policy that new code must meet baseline maintainability thresholds. Teams see issues immediately in pull requests, and leaders see trends across repositories and portfolios over time. How you would adopt it is to start with a baseline policy on new code, then expand to broader coverage as teams mature. What to measure is defect escape rate, time to remediate, rollback frequency, and portfolio level maintainability trends. Next, we apply that same philosophy specifically to AI generated code, with validation built directly into the coding agent workflow. This is a pivotal step. AI doesn't just generate code. It's now paired with proactive security and quality validation. As Copilot Coding Agent moves into general availability on October 28, GitHub can automatically analyze the changes an agent proposes for common vulnerabilities and quality issues before they merge and long before they ship. What it is consistent security scanning and maintainability checks applied to AI-generated work, the same way you expect for human code. Why it matters is simple. If AI helps you produce more code, you need guardrails that keep risk from scaling at the same rate. This bakes validation into the pull request workflow, so checks run every time, not when someone remembers. Here's a concrete flow. The agent opens a pull request. Linting, tests, and CodeQL security analysis run automatically. Findings are surfaced right in the PR. The agent iterates until the checks pass. Then a human reviews the final diff and approves with context and accountability. How you'd adopt it is by standardizing these required checks in your repos and templates, and rolling it out team by team. What to measure: pull request cycle time, check failure rate, and security findings caught before merge. And when security findings do appear, we're reducing remediation time by assigning alerts directly to Copilot. Detection is only half the battle. This feature connects scanning results directly to remediation work. In public preview starting October 28, you can assign code scanning alerts right to the Copilot coding agent. What it is a way to route a CodeQL alert to an agent that can analyze the code path, propose a fix, and do the busy work that usually slows teams down. Why it matters is simple: shorter mean time to remediate and fewer aging alerts. And because the work stays inside GitHub, teams reduce tool switching and keep the audit trail where your security program already lives. Here's a concrete example. A CodeQL alert gets assigned to Copilot. Copilot proposes a patch, opens a pull request, adds or updates tests, and explains the reasoning so the human reviewer can approve quickly and confidently. How you'd adopt it is by starting with your highest volume alert types, setting clear review rules, and rolling it out team by team. What to measure: time to first fix, mean time to remediate, and alert backlog over time. We've covered productivity and trust. Now we finish with scale, the enterprise platform capabilities that make this manageable across thousands of developers. The final theme is scale. How to operationalize agents and Copilot across the enterprise with governance that does not slow teams down. We have seen how GitHub helps teams move faster with intelligent agents, and how that speed does not come at the expense of security or quality. Now the question is, what happens when you roll this out to thousands of developers, across hundreds of repos, business units, and tools? At small scale, you can manage access manually. At enterprise scale, you need systems that make the secure path the easy path. That starts with consistent identity, roles, and permissions, so the right people can do the right work, and nothing more. It also means consolidated licensing and usage insights, so admins can manage cost, prove return on investment, and adjust enablement based on real adoption. The platform enhancements here are designed to standardize controls, reduce admin overhead, and keep developers moving. What to measure: time to onboard, policy compliance rates, and license utilization versus active usage. First, let's look at how GitHub simplifies governance with enterprise teams and roles. Enterprise teams and roles is about making governance scalable, central policy with local execution. As organizations grow, access control gets messy fast. Every new repo, every reorg, every acquisition adds one more place for permissions to drift. This public preview, announced October 21st, centralizes teams, roles, and permissions at the GitHub enterprise level so you can apply fine-grained control consistently across business units. What it is one place to define groups and standard roles, then reuse them everywhere. Why it matters is simple: Fewer one-off exceptions, less admin work, and much lower risk of inconsistent access. It also ties directly back to AI controls. If you want consistent agent governance, you need consistent identity, roles, and boundaries first. Here is a concrete example. Define a standard repo maintainer role once, with clear limits and auditability. Then apply it across dozens of organizations. With predictable onboarding and clean offboarding when people change teams. How you adopt it is by standardizing your most common roles, mapping them to enterprise teams, and rolling them out incrementally. What to measure is permission change volume, time to onboard, and access policy exceptions. Next, we pair governance with cost and adoption management through unified Copilot licensing and metrics. This is the operational backbone for scaling Copilot, one place to manage licenses, and the data to prove value. Unified Copilot licensing and metrics, generally available as of October 28, brings GitHub Enterprise and Copilot administration together in a single experience. What it is consolidated licensing plus built-in usage insights inside GitHub. Why it matters is simple: fewer manual steps for admins, clearer governance for leaders, and tighter control of spend. How you adopt it is to start by centralizing license management. Then use the metrics to track adoption at scale across business units, repositories, and regions. That lets you focus enablement where it will actually move the needle, instead of training everyone the same way. Here's a concrete example. In a quarterly review, you reclaim seats that are inactive. Expand access to teams showing higher pull request throughput. And target coaching where engagement is low but the opportunity is high. What to measure: active usage over time, adoption by team, and productivity indicators you already trust, like cycle time and pull request volume. Adoption without measurement becomes cost without outcomes. To wrap up, I'll summarize what these launches mean in practice, and propose a concrete next step for your team. To close, Universe 25 brings agents, security, and enterprise scale together as one platform, so you can move faster without trading off trust or control. First, Agent Headquarters. Think of it like mission control for software delivery. You can coordinate agents across GitHub, Visual Studio Code, and the command line interface, and you can extend them with custom agents for the workflows that matter to you, like triage, modernization, or test generation. Second, Secure by default. As more work becomes AI-assisted, validation has to keep up. Built-in quality and security automation helps you consistently check what agents and developers produce, so speed does not create new risk. Third, an enterprise-grade platform. You get the roles, licensing, and metrics to scale adoption responsibly, with visibility for engineering leadership and the controls app SEC needs. A practical next step is a 30 to 60-day pilot. Pick one product area. Define 2 to 3 agent use cases. Set governance guardrails up front, like policy, approvals, and data boundaries. Then measure impact across adoption, delivery speed, and quality, including security findings and rework. If you'd like, we can map these capabilities to your current toolchain and compliance requirements and define a pilot plan with clear access metrics. We will align an executive sponsor, an engineering owner, and an app SEC partner, and at the end, decide whether to scale, adjust, or stop. Thanks for your time today.